Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the next in our Decentralized Finance series as part of Singularity Net's Decentralized OS program. We are very honored, and I am personally extremely excited today to welcome the founder of Ocean Protocol, Bruce Pon, to join us today. I have been a longtime fan of Ocean Protocol. I will disclose that I do own some tokens in Ocean, but sadly not enough, not investment advice at all, but very excited. And I definitely am interested, and I know all of you will be interested to hear what Bruce has to say. So Bruce, thanks so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Thank you. So Bruce, why don't you, I think everybody would be interested to know, because anyone in crypto, anyone watching this video has had their moment of falling in love with crypto. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the moment you first discovered crypto and then how that rolled into Ocean Protocol?
Absolutely. I read a lot. And so I actually first heard about Bitcoin probably 2010, 2011, but I was really busy traveling around the world building banks. I think at that time I was probably in like Thailand and Russia, and I was building banks. So it wasn't exactly in the epicenter of like blockchain and crypto at that time. But after I got some time to think, around 2012, 2013, I was seeing what was happening with Bitcoin. And it sounded really interesting because I was actually building banks. I was helping to build out the financial system in places that, were growing, maturing, and developing that financial system. So I had kind of a firsthand seat of seeing how you build that. And 2013, my co-founder Trent McConaughey, he moved to Berlin where I was living, and he said, I want to do a startup that has to deal with intellectual property and data on the blockchain, and we're going to actually use this Bitcoin blockchain in order to start collecting IP rights, all that sort of stuff. And I had been thinking a lot about stuff, thinking about how this inequality between the rich and the poor, and how robotics, AI, and automation was going to take away all the jobs from truck drivers and all that sort of stuff, and what's there left for humans. And when he talked about that idea, a light went on actually in 2013, 2014, and I dropped everything. I sold my first startup. I went 100% into blockchain starting early 2014. I got my first Bitcoin, and I haven't looked back since. So it seems like at that time, looking back now, we were pretty much pioneers because we were one of the very first venture-backed startups that wasn't financial, and we were dealing with data and intellectual property at that time.
Yeah, no, you guys are definitely. So you originally were thinking we're going to do this all on Bitcoin blockchain, and then you sort of at some point realized that wasn't going to work. So help us, as sad as that might be for all the Bitcoiners out there, and I guess everyone's pretty much a Bitcoiner. Help us understand sort of that evolution to where you are now, and then we can talk about what might happen in the future a little bit later.
Yeah, it's clear Bitcoin isn't for instance, a data transport network. It's a value transport network, and it's very thin relatively. It's also very, not janky, that's the wrong word, but it's hard to work with if you're using it for something other than its intended purpose. So we saw that very early on. Number one, we were working in what we now call NFTs, which, in the last couple of months, it's kind of exploded in the space. And I remember walking down the streets of Manhattan, pitching this to Disney, the media companies, and all that sort of stuff. And it was just,
you're crazy.
I mean, it was just the wrong time. They were saying, Bitcoin, isn't that what criminals and drug dealers use? And then I think this is when Ross Ulbricht got caught and everything like that. So we didn't have very good optics at that time, I guess. And on the backside, we were also seeing how it was to work with Bitcoin blockchain in a way that it wasn't designed for. And so we realized very quickly we're not going to make it if we stay on this, where the world's not ready for this. So, but what we saw was part of the innovations we had to build in order to make a scribe happen was this company called BigchainDB, or this product called BigchainDB, which is a decentralized meta store for data. So essentially a blockchain database, something like similar, but not exactly the same as something like Filecoin, Arweave, some of these storage applications that are now coming online, except actually a database. And to this day, I think there's only one or two database type startups similar to BigchainDB. So, any of your listeners out there, developers, that idea is still available to work on. I'm pretty sure you could tokenize it also. We did that, and we had a really interesting run because that appealed a lot more to the enterprise because they understood it changed from dealing with kind of the general media or large media artists and such like that to IT managers who are trying to understand their data, their supply chains, what happens for reconciliation in back office of banks. How does it work in automotive companies? Because I had come from the automotive sector for a decade before that. All of these things was things that people are struggling with, and that costs like maybe 1/3 of all of an IT spend is just reconciliation and systems to fix differences between databases. And so that pitch for blockchain went very, very well. We did about 50 proof of concepts, and we started seeing a lot of patterns where blockchain really was unique. The main question at that time was, why do you really need a blockchain database for this rather than a central database? And so we had to answer this question for 3 years straight. But what BigchainDB showed us was that if you can show kind of the source, where the data comes from, who owns it, and then once it's in the system, it has kind of a perfect provenance history of where it's been transferred to and who's used it and stuff, that was extremely powerful. And because of Trent's background in artificial intelligence, he said, this all leads to artificial intelligence because the end consumer of this pipeline, this ever kind of, let's, imagine the Brazilian Amazon of all these different streams of data coming together into this Amazon. The endpoint is artificial intelligence. Right. They are going to consume all this stuff. And that's how we ended up with Ocean Protocol, because we saw blockchain databases, artificial intelligence, and the actual data flow come together. And that's why we built Ocean Protocol.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's actually interesting. So now you have these, AI, all the big AI people or companies are in this massive data accumulation aggregation phase. And we've all read about that. So Ocean Protocol is providing the decentralized alternative to these massive centralized, siloed in some respects, stores of data. And you're going to basically present that to other people. But to do that, there has to be a way to compensate, to provide value in that model as well. So I think that's one of the cool innovations of, as you guys put on your website, data is the new asset class. So sort of help us understand like what that paradigm shift in terms of rethinking what data, everyone knows data is important, but thinking of it as an asset class is a different mindset. So help us understand the thinking and where this takes us potentially.
Sure. So I'll take a quick step back. So if you look at the world as it is today with data is designed to be locked up. I worked in IT for 15 years before joining blockchain, as doing what I was doing, and all systems are designed to put layers upon layers of security on data. It's not designed to get out. So what you have is three categories of companies in the world, or three types of organizations. One, they are data rich and AI rich. Right. They got the researchers and they got the data. That's people like Microsoft, Facebook, Google, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Microsoft. It's, they're the winners. Right. You have the companies who have a ton of data, but they don't have, they don't have as many data scientists. So they have this latent potential of data that's sitting there. And you could say this is all the pharmaceutical companies, governments, automotive companies, shipping companies, energy companies. Pretty much the entire industrial base has a lot of data, but probably is not using it to its maximum potential. And then you look at this third group, which are, let's say, data scientists, researchers. They have grants where they're getting paid whatever $25,000, $30,000 a year. Right. They can't afford to buy data. They don't even know where to get it. And so what they're forced to do is to be very creative and start scraping the internet, finding free sources, and just trying to find ways to power their AI modules so they can maybe build a business on top of it. And what Ocean Protocol is trying to do is essentially go orthogonal to all that and say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to provide a protocol like TCP/IP, which instead of an information transport layer is also an information data and value transport protocol. So we're very thin, We use kind of blockchain smart contracts, all that sort of stuff. And what we do is we handle just essentially access control to various resources. Let me unpack that. So access control, it's as simple as, do you have this token? Did you pay the money? Did you do X, Y, or Z so that I can open up the door and just give you access to this resource? And a resource could be data, it could be an algorithm, it could be storage, computation, it could be curation, analytics, all these things. So, let's say you have 7 or 8 doors, they're all different types of services. And what Ocean Protocol is essentially that mechanism of essentially hooking somebody up with a key once they've met the conditions so they can just go and open that door. And if you imagine that kind of process, a data scientist using Ocean Protocol, we're not a platform in the sense that we control everything, but we have smart contracts that I can just say, I press a button, I say, I'm going to invoke this type of access control that I want to have. I'm going to access some data, I'm going to access some compute, and then I'm going to pull in some algorithm and make all that stuff work. I'm going to get a result, and then I'm going to go to the next one, do the exact same thing. And you can start daisy chaining these functions, these actions, so that you can decentralize this whole kind of data supply, AI research pipeline on decentralized rails. So that if I'm a researcher, I own that. That actual process is like the process to build the COVID vaccine, for instance. It actually is intellectual property itself. Right. And then the actual components themselves are valuable too, because they come into it. Yeah. Hopefully I didn't get too complex in there, but what Ocean is just an orchestration layer that sits on top of all these different kind of resources, and it unlocks it. And it's pretty powerful because Ocean Protocol isn't Google or say, we have no control over it after it's been released. You can choose any of the smart contracts to invoke, and then it's just between you and whoever's on the other side. And that's kind of one of the big powers of what we're doing.
Wow. I mean, first of all, I love the way there's a lot there. First of all, you used 2 of my favorite words, which are orchestration and orthogonal. So thank you for making me feel good about that one. And orthogonal is on my LinkedIn profile. So there you go. But more importantly, like those 3 segments of the market that you broke down, and the fact that you're coming in an orthogonal level, like it starts a couple questions in my mind. I tell people I'm an old man, right? I've been through Internet 1.0. I went through social media. Now I'm in crypto. And what seems to happen in every one of these revolutionary experiences is that most people can say, here's a new technology, and let's figure out how we can use it to do what we already do better, faster, cheaper. Great, fantastic. It's like intranets in version 1, like fantastic. You should definitely do that. But that's not the game changer. It's doing the things that were previously impossible. So what Ocean is doing is unlocking data in a way that was literally previously impossible because everyone was keeping it closed. And now you're saying, no, information/data wants to be free, but not free in the sense of free. There's no value, free in that it's available for anyone to use. But there was no way to actually connect the dots between that desire for information and data. I feel like I'm just an Ocean pitchman right now, but that's okay. I already disclosed it at the beginning. And the ability to actually say, no, we actually recognize that whoever creates and generates the value should be compensated however they choose. And that's what Ocean's doing and sliding in at that very thin layer. And I think that's the revolution as I just understood what you said. Is that fair to say?
Pretty much. Like in the 7 years we've been working on this, there's 2 things that we figured out you need, and that's been stopping the data sharing. Number 1 is all that data is there, but people feel pretty unsafe. Right. They're scared that their privacy is going to be violated. They're scared that their data is going to get out, that they're going to lose control. So number 1, you have to solve that if you're going to unlock data. So just like it was inconceivable 10 years ago to walk into a stranger's car and then take a ride across town. Well, Uber changed that. Uber made it so that, hey, I'm just getting in this guy's car and they have a 5-star rating, so I feel fully safe. Airbnb, letting a stranger into your apartment. Like, who would have done that, right? Like, crazy. So we're going to look back 10 years from now, and you're going to be sharing your data, and people are going to be like, wow, 10 years ago, I would never have shared my data. Well, Ocean is making it so that that safety, that comfort, that security is going to be just implicit. Yeah. We're going to find ways to make that happen. So solve that problem. That's one piece of the big puzzle. Second piece is, what's the data worth? Right now, estimates say that like per user, it's like $50 per year on Facebook. Mm-hmm. You can multiply that against Amazon, Google, Apple, global, all the services. Maybe you get $1,000 a year per user, right? That makes a difference in many countries, actually.
Right,
funny
for
enough.
sure.
But it's $1,000. But where let's say you could have a data vault. What's that worth? Is it worth $1,000 plus something else? Maybe it's genetic data and all that sort of stuff, but we don't really know. And one of the things that we were working a lot on was, how do you price data? What's the right number? And we realized we just get out of the way. The technology wasn't there available when we were doing this at the very start 7 years ago, but in the meantime, it's come up, or at least hints at how to do this. And what that is things like automated market makers. Bonding curves. We were working with some of the early thinkers on bonding curves and what that was all about. And we were just playing with all that, what all that meant. And we realized that is actually a way that a market could kickstart kind of the price signal on what data is. And the more we can do that to give different price signals in different innovative ways where people can actually start seeing the value of their data, the natural outcropping is, if I know it's valuable, I'm going to demand control back from the internet platforms. I'm going to start taking control of the data. I'm also going to start monetizing it. And then I'm going to start using the financial tools that are available in order to turn it into a security, a collateral. I can use it for lending and stuff like that. All these types of things. I can use it for data cooperatives. And funny enough, we now have that piece is ready because DeFi is exploding and all the tools of finance are now being decomposed in the Web3 world with multiple DeFi tools. And voila, all the tools that we're using to price crypto in real time, trade it, collateralize it, securitize it, all that sort of stuff, you can now apply to data. So by solving the first problem of finding ways that you can have kind of this neutral, very thin access control layer that protects privacy, safety, exactly. And now with DeFi coming to head and people understanding what NFTs are, you can now overlay that DeFi financial system on top of that data asset, and boom, you essentially have data as a new asset class where anybody who's listening to this right now is kind of at the forefront of that. So it's a huge opportunity.
This is like, I'm getting like giddy right now because I'm thinking about like, since you've solved problem number one, and now you're sort of, it feels like with the Ocean Marketplace, with all the staking that's going on, and I've gone in there and staked, even though I really didn't know what I was doing, but what the hell, I'm sure I've had some rug pulls along the way that I don't even know about, but that's life on the cutting edge. You sometimes get cut, right? That's half the fun. You tell the war stories to everybody else who has no idea what you're talking about. But now I'm starting to understand, like, it's not just about me as an individual or a company or somebody who has the data going in and assigning rights and then being able to sell it and monetize it. That's awesome. That's great. But now this idea of the asset class, like I could see fund managers coming in and people building like DAOs that build NFT portfolios. They can start building data portfolios and index funds. And I mean, like basically the sky's the limit once you start having these and you integrate with all the DeFi stuff. I mean, derivatives, I mean, go crazy, options, futures, you name it. I mean, is that what you see sort of as the next kind of steps in this?
Absolutely. I see something like, imagine Google says, I got search data. That's, let's say, maybe that's not such a good example, but let's say it's somebody who deals in transport and say, I have all the transport data for New York. I have all the transport data for LA, Austin, San Francisco, Miami, Chicago. You can buy a one pack, which is New York, let's say $10,000, or you can buy the whole thing, $100,000 annual subscription, blah, blah, blah. And you get for that a constant data stream of all the traffic signals, and it's constantly growing. It's constantly being refreshed and added to. And so then you say, I own this portfolio of data, or the person who generates that has that. And then you have different fund managers who then mix and match even those. So you have synthetics, like, you had these kind of mutual funds that were funds of funds and all that sort of stuff. And you just have to the nth degree. And so what you're going to see is a completely new asset class worth trillions, a completely new economy that's going to arise with the financialization so that people are really going to understand it and be able to unlock it, arise where there was pretty much zero let's just say, or at least zero that was transparent to the world. Everybody knows Reuters, everybody knows Bloomberg terminals, everybody knows kind of Axiom for healthcare. And then for the ad agencies, like it's or ads like Google and stuff like that, you kind of know that that's where the value of data is, because they're selling ads or what have you and selling access. But for the first time, we're actually switching that around and making it, instead of implicit and kind of hidden, explicit. You're going to have a data set that's going to have a floating value in the market like any stock. It'll rise in value when it gets used or it gets higher quality. It'll fall in value if it starts getting stale. People stop using it. It can get, you're going to have managed buyouts or something where somebody says, fine, I'll buy that complete data set and I'm going to rebuild it and try to turn it around and make a return on it. All the things that we see now for companies and assets, you're going to see on data, which is going to be a really interesting prospect. And I'm so excited in the next, let's say, 2 decades, where all the jobs that AI, robotics, and automation is going to take away, you're going to have other people jump in and create a completely new economy. We're going to create millions of jobs for people who can do this type of thing. And so I'm actually hopeful. That's what I was trying to do, is to create a new economy that allows everybody in some way to participate, whether it's just giving up your data or creating a whole new job, just like what YouTube has done with all the influencers and anything. Like millions of people now are just influencers on YouTube and they earn a living on. We're going to do that with the data economy.
There's so many ways to go down this, because what one thread we could go after is almost like the emotional side, which is basically saying, Bruce, you as an individual have value, you matter, and I can prove it. It's not, and I'm willing to pay you like in a tangible way that you have value. And imagine what that does for the self-esteem, let alone the earning potential of people who are living, the 2 billion people who don't have a bank account and everybody's living, inequality, and thank you, the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff, Cantillon effect. I mean, we could go on for days about that. So there's that thread. But then there's also this thread of like what you're saying is like, hey, you think NFTs are big? Like that's like the appetizer. That's the amuse-bouche on this thing. Just relax, because data's big, but right now it's locked up in a few of these places, and we're gonna give everyone the key, and all of a sudden it's just gonna, I don't think we can even imagine the TAM on this thing. My head is hurting just thinking about it.
Yeah, the way I look at it is universal basic, like what we're trying to do for every individual on Earth is make it so that you have a chance to survive in the future, because there's a lot of ways where people are going to get, frustrated and stuff. Yep. And so for me, that aspect is universal basic income via a means where the dignity and respect of each individual is kept,
But it's actually UBI. It's not UBI in the sense that I'm just giving you a handout. It's income.
Correct.
It's UBI for it's like you're working for me. I'm not giving you. We're doing a trade. I'm just paying you. So there's a whole nother level of societal contribution that you're helping there.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry to
totally.
cut you off.
That's the way I saw it. No, totally. Like Albert Wenger, he talks a lot about UBI. Yep. You have a lot more people. I think Andrew Yang, he talked a lot about UBI. He ran for president, I guess, in America and such like that. And these are things. And you think about that, and you think there's going to be a lot of pushback in terms of that. So is there another way where people everybody knows, I think, everybody has some sort of value as a human, period. But we also have value in the data we generate, the places we go, our geography, our graph of where we go, our social network, the way we are, our genetic information. There's so much stuff that we can offer as humans by just being alive. Right. I think that at the base level is what we're trying to unlock. And then on top of that, in the future, when you have automation, robotics and automation, what do humans do? Right. And a lot of it relies on good heuristics, mental models, and judgment. And it turns out that when humans think in this form, they turn their minds to money, trading, hedge funds, crypto. We're seeing millions of people enter into this financial space where they're learning about technical analysis, head and shoulders patterns. They're learning all these things that are essentially financial lingo that was maybe a couple 100,000 people in the world understood, from New York, Tokyo, and London. And now you have millions of people who've learned all these tools because it's in their interest. They can have a different heuristic, they can have different mental models, and they can show judgment that is separate from the pack. And if you do that well, particularly in crypto, you might have a 10, 100x return by going against the grain and finding these jewels. And so I think that if you apply that to asset classes like NFTs, data, other things that we still haven't thought to securitize, monetize, and turn into an asset class, you open up this huge ecosystem of potential where humans can exert their judgment in order to earn a lot more money, regardless of where they are on Earth. And I think that's what we're trying to do.
That's really exciting.
Potential get unlocked.
And I didn't even go down the other path of where I was going to go. Well, maybe we'll come back to it. But what I'm hearing you say now is like, okay, I'm going to contribute my data to this, data set. I'm going to get compensated for it. But that mere fact of doing that is going to help me understand, wait a second, I'm part of a larger whole, and I can actually access that. And basically heuristics is an awesome way of saying pattern recognition in some respects, and sort of say, oh, wait a second, here's a pattern among a certain group of people. You're identifying new markets and new segments that maybe you, with that innovative entrepreneurial mind that we all have latent there, can now say, wait a second, I can serve, even if it's a micro lending market in Bangladesh all the way up to the largest one, you'll see patterns because of your unique POV. And that's like giving you that mind blow. Oh, I'm getting chills here, man.
Yep. I'm not at all pessimistic about what human potential can do, because we got the internet, so everybody's got access. We can learn everything. And I'm more than optimistic about this. So, I'm just, everybody, we've gone through a lot. COVID, political turmoil in many countries and stuff, falling trust in governments, anti-science kind of thinking, or questioning of all that sort of stuff. It's bringing all of us down, right? But the fundamentals is the tools are getting built where everybody, if you think about it and you kind of just shift it from half empty to half full, there's a lot of good things to be looking forward to.
That's great to hear an optimist in this world, because I definitely, we're all we're all feeling pretty drained here. It's been rough. And if you live in the U.S., you went through an election on top of it. So that was pretty challenging. But okay, wait a second. So I wanted to just let's back up for a second, because I wanted to also go down the other path that was really interesting, is like subscribing to these city-based data sets. Like, that was really interesting, because as you were talking about that, the other thing was, wait a second, if I'm paying for a subscription to New York City traffic or San Francisco City traffic or whatever, or BART or Metro Riders or whatever, and then COVID hits, the price of that should drop significantly, because people are leaving, they're not riding, they're not driving. And so what you're saying is, like, as a consumer of data, I'm actually going to have it's going to be a more fair market to me. Like, I'm actually going to pay what the value of that data actually has decreased, because there's only 1/100th of the people out. So that decreases. I still have access to it, whatever. And so that real-time market, the way that we in crypto expect 24/7 markets for everything. I was selling a stock the other day, and it was like I don't remember what it was, like a US holiday, and it was Saturday night, and I clicked sale, and they're like, oh, when the market opens on Tuesday, we'll sell it. And I was like, markets are closed? Since when? And I was like, oh, in the other world, markets are closed. But that 24/7 market that we're used to, like, now we can have that for data of, it could just be a sporting event, like what's happening at the Super Bowl. So that's just, what you can do with that also, and unlocking people to play around. That's powerful. So yeah, man, you got me lit. Let me ask you this. So now, you mentioned NFTs before, and NFTs have been crazy on multiple levels, but it's proving to be an onboarding experience for a lot of people into crypto, and helping them understand that you can have a unique, scarce digital asset. Awesome. When you think about the first potential mainstream use cases for data as an asset class, like, what have you seen? Maybe it's already happening out there in the early stages of the ecosystem. What do you think, if you had to sort of put some of the bets down, what do you think would be the ones that have a likely chance of sort of lighting up the public the way that NFTs had? And I know I'm asking a lot, but I'm just curious.
The obvious one is crypto data. Like hands down, you have people who understand crypto and they want to make more money. They're traders. Data can help them do that. Data can have insight. So you have things like social data,
right,
where you can kind of see sentiment analysis. The more people are chatting about it, chances are token price is rising. You look at on-chain analytics. So is the number of token holders increasing? What's happening in the exchange volumes? Or is stuff leaving the exchange or going in? This type of data in real time, I strongly believe that there is a value for that type of service. And these services are all popping up. And what you could do is, instead of having like a subscription or what have you, or maybe what you do is you take these existing subscription models or pay as you go or what have you, you put that into Ocean, then that data set can rise and fall with value as people are discovering it more and all that sort of stuff. So what we see Ocean for those crypto companies, let's just say, is it's an alternative distribution channel for their existing data. So they're just getting more bang for the buck for the same content. I think that that's where we're going to see some real adoption, real transactions and such like that. We're also working with a lot of different kind of NGOs, companies and stuff like that. A lot of these people, they're feeling, they're trying to they're learning the ropes. So of course, everything they're doing is in a private network. And I remember when I was working on intranets in like 95.
You're dating yourself, man.
Yeah, totally. I helped build one of the very first intranets for a government, like a state government, for the welfare system back in the day, and it was pretty innovative because we were essentially building that type of stuff. But it was very clear by like 2000 intranets, that wasn't the idea.
Right.
Like internet, open innovation, open ideas is going to win. Right. And so that's why in 2016 in the blockchain space, when we went into this kind of permissioned blockchain networks that were private,
it was Internet 2.0, man. I mean, like, who cares? Yeah.
Correct. It was intranet 2.0.
Exactly.
And that's why I was like, we went into it. We said, no, pattern recognition, this is not going to work. So we actually bet the farm on open systems against kind of our instinct, because that's where all the energy was. And I believe that decision has been vindicated, that we just go straight through to Ethereum, keep everything open source, everything. That being said, the gateway access to these enterprises is to show them in a private network, this can work. It's a little bit, and then eventually they will open up. They have to open up if they want to like play with the rest of the world. And Ocean is designed from the base to be completely open. So they're using Ocean right now. They're getting used to it. And when they're ready, they can just open up the doors because it's interoperable immediately from day one if they let it. So we keep that in mind.
It's like you're already on the bike. We're just going to take the training wheels off and you're good to go.
Correct.
They're going to love. Yeah. You're going to love that. I don't know where I came up with that one, but so where was I going to go? My mind's spinning here. So you mentioned two things, right? So you said the word gateway and you said the word Ethereum. So you can probably see where I'm going with this one. The first question I'm going to have is, okay, you sort of addressed the gateway to Ocean, which is you need to go in there and sort of do hand-to-hand combat with a lot of NGOs and big enterprises and say, hey guys, I know you think your data should be private, and don't worry, we're not just going to give your competitors all your data. We got you covered, and you have to build the trust, and everyone, the CIO probably thinks that it'll never happen. Eventually, some of the more forward things like that. So, okay, that's a gateway, and you can probably have consumer gateways also that are more on-ramps eventually for me to just plug in my Facebook data or whatever. But Ethereum, look, I mean, it's a little pricey these days, unless you're super rich. I don't know if you've noticed, it's a little pricey these days. And for me to go in and like stake against a certain data set, it's a little tough. So how does someone like you that sort of is DeFi eventually, but not quite DeFi, and certainly may not have the big numbers that Aave or Compound or whatever, like, how are you thinking about the future without antagonizing anyone? Like, what does that look like for you?
That's pretty. Let me take it back out. So I'll answer both questions, or both comments at least. So you were talking about the first part. You were talking about gateways. We learned our lessons from BigchainDB. We don't go to enterprise, actually. we don't actively seek them out, nor do we actively seek to engage them. Not because we don't want to, but because in general, the push and the pull. Right. If they're pulling us and they keep pulling us, that's a good sign. If we're pushing, it's a waste of time. So we've geared all of our activities towards the developers and the crypto natives, the Web3 specialists. And everything that we do is for those folks. Now, we have a lot of inbound from enterprises and governments, and we consider them community members fundamentally. And with the community members, what we do is we work with them to the point where we gather their requirements, we massage those requirements so they can be completely open source, so there's nothing closed and there's no private software that's going to be built, that type of thing. And then we give it back into the main code base. And so we've actually flipped it around. We don't have any sales team. We have no marketing, outbound, none of that stuff. We work with clients one-on-one if they are pulling us to join or to help them out. And we don't, there's no hard sales pitch at all. And what that's allowed us to do is to find people, or people find us, and they'll stick with us as long as they can. If they don't, no hard feelings. And we just go back to working with the Web3, DeFi, crypto natives. That's who we're going to appeal to. And that feels great.
Right.
There's no uphill battles. We don't have like sales targets or anything like that. None of that.
Right.
Any sales we make is just because it's table stakes to prove that you're serious about this. But that's not, I mean, sure, there's some, it covers some costs and stuff like that. But honestly, that's not what we're trying to do. We're just trying to make it that you're not wasting our time and your time. So it's a really nice position to be in. Like, it's not arrogant or anything. It's just like the reality. We've done this for so long now. 7 years, we were knocking on doors and stuff like that. We're not doing that anymore. So that's kind of the on-ramp in what we're doing, getting kind of enterprises on board. Now, in terms of how the space is growing, I think that there's so much green space out there, so much potential. There's no competition for reality's sake because we haven't had a winner other than what if you call the best duopoly we've seen so far, and hopefully I don't piss off anybody, but it's going to be Binance and Coinbase. That's the only duopoly we have right now. You don't consider Bitcoin and Ethereum a duopoly in any way because it's still wide open, the platforms, everything's gelling and stuff like that. But that's kind of it in the space. And even then, I don't know if that's necessarily sustainable. So for us, we started on Ethereum because that's where the majority of talent was. We knew that Ethereum was going to get expensive, that it was going to be mainly a financial system, a financial platform where you're going to have middle and higher value products and services like tokens being traded on Ethereum. So in our minds already, I think at the end of 2019, we said, we're going to go to Ethereum, but Ethereum's going to get expensive and it's going to be the finance chain for a certain set of applications. There's going to be other chains like Polkadot, Polygon, Cosmos, Avalanche, all these ones where you're going to be able to do specific things. I think Neo Chain does video games, and Polygon does like more some finance stuff, trade stuff, all that sort of stuff. And Dot is, kind of an extension of what Ethereum was based on the original architect with Gavin and the folks there. And so we had very early on a multi-chain strategy. We're going to just be promiscuous in that sense because our stuff is smart contracts. As long as you have an EVM compatibility, our stuff is very thin. We can deploy our stuff within days, both the smart contracts and the ocean market on any platform. And then we can just hook into that. And so what we wanted to be was just say, if we are a protocol is universal. So we're going to go to any platform where it makes sense so that people can upload their data, whether it costs a cent here on this chain, 10 cents on this chain, or
$10,000 on this chain.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, we've seen a couple of those.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, so right now we've announced on Polkadot, Kusama, and Polygon. And so Polygon is already live. It costs 1 or 2 cents to upload a data set. And so we're shunting some people over there who have to have high volume. When Kusama and Polkadot come online, then we'll also open that up in the sense of encouraging people, you can start publishing your assets.
And the bridges between all the protocols, you've got that?
Yeah, so the beauty is because we're Ocean tokens, so we have EVM compatibility, which means that the logic, the brains of it, it can be, and all these chains are EVM compatible. You're covered, right? So boom, boom, boom. The other aspect is ERC20 tokens, ERC721 tokens, so non-fungible tokens and fungible tokens. Each of these networks themselves are incentivized to build bridges. So we don't actually have to do that. So they build that bridge mechanism, lock it in one side, it gets minted on the other side, and then it's free to run, let's say, in the dot network. And then from the dot network, they're incentivized to build a bridge to Polygon. So then you can lock it in the dot side, and then it gets minted into Polygon. So you have this conservation of mass across all the systems, which allows everything to run. So that was what we realized. We had actually set up our own proof of authority network, like Energy Web Foundation, for instance. They have their own kind of proof of authority network. And we had done that in 2019. And we realized, wait. This is a DevOps and this is a network operations. There's a lot of Sybil attacks, Byzantine faults and all that kind of stuff. Let's get away from that. Let's just focus only on what we're really good at, which is data. Right. Smart contracts, access control. Let's focus on that. That's our unique selling proposition. And we got away from running a network, which was a very good move because we would have needed like a 20 or 30 person team just to manage the network and make sure it doesn't go down. And we let these other networks manage that because that's what they're good at. And then we just ride on top of each one. So we have both the logic riding. Now the logic, I'll be honest, the logic has to stay within that network, but that's okay, right? So you run a smart contract in Ethereum, it stays on Ethereum. You're not going across to Matic and all that sort of stuff. But the tokens can go across any network, and that's pretty good for now. I'm sure there's some additional complexity that's going to come in the future where you're going to have to go across chain for different things, but we're not there yet, and we'll essentially roll with the punches to make sure that no matter what happens in the space, Ocean is going to be essential as kind of, let's say, the data economy token, the data economy protocol on every chain.
Well, I'm going to take issue with one thing you said. I loved everything, but you said you don't do any marketing. As a lifelong marketer, I'm telling you, first of all, you just gave the greatest marketing value proposition. Ocean is going to be the data value. So, and I will also say that everything's marketing, right? The experience, the getting on the marketplace. So I'm going to take a little bit of that, but yes, the outbound in your face, here's my booth and t-shirt kind of stuff, fine.
You're getting emails and spam and unsubscribe and all that kind of stuff.
That's the bullshit marketing. The real essence of marketing is the stuff, it's the value of the product. So I just had to defend my trade on that one. I've been doing that. It's interesting. I wrote a blog post this morning that's going to come out next week where yesterday I went on to I saw a great Defiant video where the guy was taking his UST ERC20 token and went to a Terra bridge into Terra, the other side Anchor, and I was like, wow, I've been calling Ethereum for 3.5 years crypto Wall Street, right? And it's like Lower Manhattan. It just gets super expensive. Only the rich can play there. And now you need bridges to Brooklyn and Staten Island and all this kind of stuff. And now we're building those bridges. And it's becoming easier. You have to come to Wall Street for the massive liquidity. That's where it all is. But you can go to other places for savings and whatever. So but the fact that you're omnipresent, like you're almost like the subway system. You're going to all the boroughs, if I'm going to continue the New York analogy, I suppose. That's just really interesting. So there are two things I wanted to just sort of drive on. I was taking furious notes here. And I also I have a little punchline for the enterprises where we don't have to come to you because eventually you're going to come to us, but maybe that might be a little too arrogant for your case. Two things I wanted to talk about since we are on the Singularity Net channel here, and you have mentioned AI a couple of times. I would be interested in hearing sort of how you see decentralized AI, decentralized data sort of coming together. I think some of it might be obvious to our listeners, but it'd be interesting to hear your perspective, on how those could potentially, play with each other nicely, or what some of the opportunities, maybe early things that you've seen already.
So I think in our collaboration with Singularity Net and a couple other ones like Fetch or Numer AI and all that sort of stuff, I think that Trent's insight, based on his 25 years of experience in AI, is just that any AI needs a lot of data and a constant stream of data. Number one, just to function, just to have their algorithm. you put all that together, and then you have this kind of agent that can actually be somehow autonomous. So you're going to have multiple data streams, just like a robot will need multiple sensors, visual, thermo, all this kind of stuff, sensory and stuff like that. And so where this comes is essentially the brains of the robot in the future. So in the past, we were scared of robots that had a program inside that would just kind of go wacky and stuff like that. But what people failed to think was these robots, in the way that they were conceived in the movies, were kind of closed systems. Right. They didn't have access. The robots of the future, which is a little more dystopian and scary futures, that the robots of the future will actually have those links to these real-time data feeds, and if they go bonkers or something like that, we have no chance. We absolutely have no chance against these guys. You look at the Boston Dynamics robots, combine that with like this all-powerful AI that's accessing all these different data streams and
it's
using
Terminator
Web3 native technologies. Yeah, it's Terminator XX, right? We're screwed. So that's the dystopian view, but in a better view, what the energy grid system was something we had encountered already 3 or 4 years ago, where East Coast is a little bit of a mess, let's be honest, in terms of the grid system, right? It's a little bit creaky. And
there was that massive blackout a couple years back with the whole East Coast and into Canada.
Yeah, because it's kind of serial and linear rather than a circular with multiple redundancies and stuff. Anyways, we won't get into that, but imagine AI, and this actually happens in many jurisdictions, also in Europe, by the way. Right now, as we speak, AI manages kind of how the grid functions right now. So it'll automatically turn on some generators on one side or turn them off. It'll try to spew out energy on one side just to like rebalance the system, because it always has to be net kind of equal at zero. It's always kind of charged, but not overcharged and not undercharged. And so that's the most optimistic view, is that the AI is just it's just everywhere around us, ubiquitous, and it's just making our lives easier. Things are just more smooth. It's like, let's say, a 5-star hotel experience. You get out of the car, there's somebody opens your door, you show up there, your keys are ready, you go upstairs, and then the TV turns on, the coffee gets turned on. AI is, that's the best way. We're just little puppies that are enjoying all this stuff. That's the best way that AI can be seen, right? And that's where you're going to see coordination of agents, payments. Yep. So all the payments and stuff will happen in real time. So everything that happens, let's say you're entering a 5-star hotel, getting out of the car, going in, getting your thing, getting room service, all that sort of stuff. It's in real time. You're closing that using blockchain payment rails. You're using AI for all the sensory stuff, so that it can kind of predict what you're looking for, what you need. Preparing the shower, all that kind of stuff. That would be the ideal human kind of existence in a world where AI is just kind of working with data, and then you have the blockchain rails for reconciliation and everything.
24/7 cloud-driven concierge. I love. All right, last question before we wrap up. One of the strongest things about Ocean Protocol, in my opinion, is your community, the Ocean Navy. I mean, it's any crypto project, for it to be successful, needs to have a group of ardent believers. What is it and the Ocean Navy, I've seen them get riled up on occasion. What is it that you feel is sort of the secret sauce to having such a strong, passionate community, aside from, of course, the amazing brains and good looks of the founding team? What would you say is really sort of driving that?
I think we believe in the future that we're building. I hope that that's what's bringing people together. Early, like 5 years ago, I encouraged Trent. Trent is really the brains, right? I'm helping him, and I'm trying.
You're the pretty face, right?
Stuff there like that. Well, so I encouraged. We were brainstorming a lot, and I encouraged him to think 30, 40 years ahead. What does the world look like? And he came up with this concept of the map, where every idea can be funded with something like an ICO, and then just like vaccinations, NRA treatments and stuff like that. And you can fund various things. And once a certain threshold is hit, then that activity is kicked off and somebody takes a project lead. And you could essentially take a map and like a graph-based approach to pushing forward into innovation that most governments are even scared to go to, where people who read the science fiction are able to say, well, you know what, I'm going to put $1,000 towards this idea because I think it's ready to go. And then millions of other people around the world also put $1,000, and voila, you have somebody who's going to say, all right, I'm going to take that money and I'm going to make it happen,
right?
Whether that's, through curation, all that sort of stuff. So 30 years ahead, Trent wrote this thing called a map. If you can find it on the internet, it's awesome. And there's a vision for how we organize societies in the future. It was kind of like an original vision for DAO. It was an original vision for ICOs before ICOs even existed. Wow. It was an original vision for how we push forward innovation without governments, borderless, where individuals could kind of take charge. Really amazing stuff. And I think that infuses a lot of what we're doing. And I hope that is what is bringing the community to us. Also, we try not to make any unforced errors. We had a really rough time. We started too early, obviously. We're ahead of the curve, which is a great thing in a sense, but it's painful to be ahead of the curve. We didn't have any terminology lingo. We started before the word crypto and blockchain were nomenclature, right? So that,
that's how early you were.
So that's that. Yeah, we're pretty. So we try to do the right things, the right time with the right morals and ethics. So hopefully that appeals to some group of people. And then for the people who are like kind of more token focused and the value focused, a lot of the Navy, they started coming in. We started noticing our lowest point was, I think, 1.5 cents. I think now, yesterday we were $1.80. Yeah. So the people who joined then, I don't know what it's 150x. So that's a pretty good one. But they came in at 1.5 cents. They believed in us because they read all this stuff and they said, why is this project price? I think at that time the total diluted value was like $4 million for Ocean. Right. So you could have bought Ocean for $5 million, all of it. But they said, with all this stuff, all this history, this provenance, why is it 1.5 cents? It's way underpriced. And so these people kind of believed in us, and they devoted a lot of their time and energy towards it because they believed in it as well. And we're eternally grateful to that. Yeah. So they were a little bit bottom feeders, but they were also pretty smart, savvy. They somehow had very good marketing skills, and they took the ball and ran with it. And then they help build up a pretty amazing community that we're very thankful for.
And there'll be one day in the future potentially where people say, wow, you can get Ocean at 180? That's incredible. So that'll be down the road. Yeah. All right. Well, Bruce, you've been amazing guest. We're so grateful that you took the time. I mean, you're revolutionizing the data and value transport layer of the planet. So every moment that you donate to somebody else is great, but I'm sure there'll be people here who will be newfound Navy members at some point. If people want to follow up or follow you, Twitter, I know you're active out there. Where should people keep tabs on you and Ocean's progress?
Yep. So Ocean Protocol on Twitter, oceanprotocol.com on the website. And then, of course, we have a Telegram group. So those are probably the three main places. If you want to join on our GitHub, we have weekly calls with Ocean Town Hall if you want to be a part of the governance, if you want to just look at the dev stuff, or if you just want to look at the token and how it's developing. There's multiple Telegram groups where you can track the progress of the token, see what's happening, updates and stuff like that. So it's all there. It's all there. All right. Well, Bruce Pon, founder of Ocean Protocol, thank you so much. Thank you for all you're doing for everybody in this space, because it's really an important piece. And we're grateful here. So everyone, hope you enjoyed the conversation. We'll tune in next time for whoever our special guest will be then. But this is all for now. So Jeremy Epstein signing off. Bruce, thanks again. And we'll catch you in the cryptoverse. Thank you.